What's up, everybody? This is Chris Kane again here with the Unofficial Therapy Podcast. I'm here with my girl, Jhene. Jhene, say hey to the people.
Hey, everybody.
So, Jhene has some issues with an ex, I guess. Is that the best way of saying it?
Yeah.
And we're trying to talk her through it. So, Jhene, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Oh, okay. So basically, my ex and I were dating for 5+ years, and we had a kid. So that made it a little bit more complicated towards the breakup. But, we were in love. We planned to get married. We basically thought that we found the one that we were going to be with forever. And then towards the end, it, of course, as any breakup goes, things just start to get a little rocky. But there was a lot of hurt involved and a lot of cheating involved on his part. So for me, it kind of diminished my self-esteem. So I had a lot of insecurities, but I was still, I thought, this is the first guy I've ever loved. This is going to be the last guy I ever loved. Like, I'm going to be with him, and he still wants to marry me type of thing. And so I was hanging on to that at the end. So finally, things just got too bad, and I had to break it off. I tried so hard. We tried, but I just couldn't do it anymore. So I had to break it off, and I moved. We were in Houston at the time, so I moved back to California, and we were still trying to keep some sparks, because I broke up because basically I wanted him to straighten up. And I didn't want us to break up forever. I just wanted to kind of wake him up and show him, like, I'm not going to stand for this, but I do love you and I want to be with you when you get better,
When you get right.
Right.
Get right, okay.
I was assuming that he would get right. So I'm in California, basically keeping tabs on him. Like, he better not be doing anything out there. It was kind of like an obsession. It was really unhealthy, and we went through about 2 years of this on and off thing. We weren't technically together, quote unquote together, but we were talking all the time. We still loved each other. We have a son, so we obviously were talking about him a lot and just communicating. And then in my series of stalkings, where I would go on the internet and basically look at what he's doing, I'd see pictures of him with other girls, basically like he moved on type of thing, and he wasn't saying that to my face, so it kind of messed with me a little bit. But I got some help. I met with a counselor and just started working on myself, started trying to move forward, being a better mom. We moved out of my mom's house. After we broke up, I had moved in with my mom. So we moved out of my mom's house. I got a new job. I was starting to move on, and it was tough because I still love him. I feel like I could still see myself with him. I can't see myself really with anybody else right now. But I feel like he's moving on. And I don't really. At one point, I was struggling, like trying to find ways to keep him. But now I'm at the point where I think I just really need to focus on me and move forward instead of trying to rekindle anything or trying to make him miss me or do anything like that. But it's a little tough when that's your first love.
No, I think, listen, they've made countless movies about first love things, and I feel like it's entirely possible and probably likely you're going to love them forever, no matter how you cut it, right? Even when you hate them, you still love them, right? So that's not going to go away anytime soon. I think the fact that he's seemingly moving on, now the onus is on you, because if you keep pining, right, then you're kind of playing yourself on the chance, like, well, maybe he's just being immature, he'll double back to me. So the question is, how do you move forward from here? How do you move on and try to rekindle your own individual spark and get your own life back?
Exactly. Well, like I said, I met with the counselor, and he was basically saying the same things you're saying as far as how do I move on, finding different ways to move on. And that was like a year and a half ago when I met with the counselor. So at the time, I felt like I was getting better. I was meeting with my counselor. I was going to these meetings for codependency. I was really trying to be better. And that was a year and a half ago, and I'm still, missing him, like wanting him to get better so we could be back together and he could, get his life right. And then I just hate the idea of seeing him get it all together and then some other girl reaps the benefits, of my hard work. It's tough.
It's a weird selfish thing. Guys go through this a lot. I never thought of how women go through this because I'm not a woman. Mm-hmm. But as a dude, when you see your girl on like social media or something or whatever, and you see her with some new guy, and he's like got a good job, he's in good shape or something, and she's like happy, hashtag bae, and you're like,
crying inside.
I used to be bae, and you like, and like she's taking some of the things you taught her or that y'all did together and implementing them in this new relationship, and this guy's just like you went through all the BS with her, and now all of a sudden this new dude is just like slides in for the glory, like Joshua did or something. Like he's like, "Hey, you made it to the promised land, baby." He's like, "You didn't do any of this, right?" You get props for this. Like I'm like Moses. I'm like, I did all the work. And then he get all the glory. So I think that's a human response. There's also some ego attached to that though, right? And I think that's obviously an internal thing. Maybe you need to maybe we should examine that part of it, the ego part of it, because I think until you kind of reconcile that, moving forward is always going to be difficult because you have one foot in the past. So
that makes sense. I never considered the ego part of it. I don't know. I never considered that I had any, that I really even had an ego. I thought that was kind of like a guy thing. I don't know.
Hey, look, guys, I've mentioned this on previous podcasts. Guys' ego is out of control. It's actually, I think, the biggest downfall of guys isn't like money and it's not greed or anything. I think it's ego. Yeah. I think, and I've mentioned before, like, my own ego and like pride or whatever is probably my biggest downfall. Mm-hmm. And I know I speak dude fluently. I speak to guys on the regular, and we all it's like kind of a unanimous thing where it's like, think of it this way: if you're trying to get a guy to do something for you, you would probably appeal to either his sexuality or his ego. Oh my God, you're so smart. Oh wow, have you been working out? Yeah. All that stuff is vain.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's all ego building stuff, and that's how you get a guy to do stuff. Can you pick this up for me? My arms are so weak. Yeah, I got you. I just did biceps. Yeah. Right. That's all. That's ego. That's like vanity. That's how you appeal to. You probably didn't even realize that you do it, but if I wanted to get a girl to do something, I want to appeal to her sexuality. Like, hey. Yeah. You see, I just did abs. Like, she's like, what? I'm not gonna do anything for you because you did abs. So it doesn't go as easily both ways. But women have egos too, right? Like, you feel like you're this caliber of a woman,
right?
And so, for him to find something close to that outside of you is almost like you can't find another me. Like I got my stuff together, right? So that's where the female ego comes in. It's not as detrimental as ours is,
right?
But it's definitely a thing.
That is a big part of it, I think, because so after we broke up, we went probably like a year out here, and then it came time to talk about child support because he was helping a little bit, but it just wasn't enough, and I would have to like ask him for things every time I needed something. So I was just like, I need to just either we do this ourselves or I go to get a lawyer. But that, it just didn't work out because he wasn't being very receptive to that. He felt like I was just like I was just like a gold digger or something. And it was unfortunate, but after we discussed that, like, I'm either gonna have to rework this out or go to a lawyer, he stopped talking. He would ignore me. I've never, out of our entire relationship, he's never ignored me, like, for a long period of time, only like a day or something if he was mad or we had a fight. Right. So for me, that was a trigger because, I don't know, I just never knew that someone ignoring me would hurt me so bad, so I would, like, reach out in different ways, like, in angry ways, like, you need to talk, like, being upset, you need to talk to me, like, what are you doing? Or, I miss you type of ways, and it just seemed like it progressed, and he was ignoring me more and more. And so that was another part of the bitterness towards the after our breakup. So right now, even though I've kind of gotten used to it, but I'm still trying to find, I don't know, some dignity out of it, you know? So I kind of just wish that he would say at least just one thing so I could ignore him, or, you know. But every time he says something, I can't ignore him. So that's how I know, like, I still have feelings attached, because it's like, I don't want him to feel the way I'm feeling, even though he's treating me badly. So I think that means that I'm messed up in the head or something. That's not normal behavior, right?
Well, I mean, it sounds like, first of all, ignoring someone, I think, so ignoring someone you care about hurts the other person. Because what we want from somebody we care about is some level of validation, and we want to feel special to someone. Right? We all want to feel special to somebody. If it's your parents, your significant other, whatever. And if they ignore you, then you feel, not only do you not feel special, because if someone is mad at you, they're still giving you attention. Right? Anger is still emotion. And so even if you're like, I hate you, then yeah, okay, I wish we were on better terms, but at least we're talking. At least I know that I make you feel some kind of way. If I can make a girl that angry, that means she's got feelings for me. She loves me. If I can make it to the point where you're like, forget you, I hate you, lose, like, if you get to the point you lose that much control, I think there's a lot of emotion attached to that. Indifference, ignoring, to me, that's almost as devastating as like unrequited affection. If you tell someone, hey, I love you, and they just say, oh, you're a nice friend, and it's like,
exactly.
Like that's so. The fact that you feel that way, I don't think that's anything messed up in the head. That's a natural response. Your response to him, a lot of people have the eye for an eye thing, right? You ignore me, I'm gonna ignore you. I'm gonna out ignore you, but
Never works out.
Well, no, you end up hurting yourself more, because here's a part of that. You think if I ignore you and you're ignoring me, that it's gonna bring you, like, you're using it as a ploy to bring him closer to you. If you're actually ignoring him because you don't want to talk to him, then it's fine. If you're ignoring him because you want him to do something, then you have to run the risk of you ignoring him and him not coming. And then that hurts even more, because you're like, even when I pull, right now you're still coming forward and he's pulling back. But if you pull back and he pulls back and then he never comes forward again, then y'all just go further apart.
That's kind of where it is now, actually, because I did go through that phase where I was wanting to ignore him so bad, but every time he would say something, I would talk. But after, 2 weeks ago, he actually sent me a picture. I had reached out to him first, but he responded, and he sent me a picture of us, like 2015 or something, on Christmas, like he, my son, and I, and I was like, and he didn't say anything with it, you know, it was just a picture by itself, and I, of course, was like, okay, he must still want me, like, he must still want us and have feelings for me. But then I said, I was excited about it, and I was like, oh, like, I miss us, that was cute, blah, blah, blah. And then I sent a picture back, no response. And then I said something else about, you know, our son, no response. So I don't know, I feel like now he might just be playing mind games or something, or even if he is, like, I'm at the point where I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't keep going back and forth, because every time I have these moments where I'm like, I'm done, you know, like, I need to move forward, it's so hard. Like, I'll end up crying and I'll be so just devastated, like I just broke up with him all over again. So I don't really understand the mind games, like, of sending a picture like that. I'm still trying to figure out what it was about.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know the dude, so I can't, like, be like, oh, yeah, I know him. He's like this kind of guy. I don't want to, like, jump to those conclusions. When it comes to, well, let's start this way. If this is a mind game in some way, then that's a show of immaturity anyway, right? Because that means you're purposely messing with someone's mind for your own entertainment, right? That's essentially what it is.
Right.
So if that's the case, then that's already immature. So that's more of an indictment on him. Now, how that affects you is where your role comes into this. Because someone can attempt to hurt you or attempt to play mind games with you, but you have to be a willing acceptor of the game. You don't have to play the game, right? So if you're playing into the game, then that's your role in this. Right. So he can be a dick for sure. That he can be out of line, absolutely. But if you're like, what does it mean? I just want to know it. And then and I'm obviously doing my exaggerated girl thing. But if you go that route with it, then you're playing into it. And so now you're a prisoner to your own emotions.
Exactly.
So
that makes so much sense.
Well, yeah.
That's what it felt like the week of after he sent that picture, and then the week after. So it was hard. And now I'm at the point where I want to move forward. I don't really know how. Like, I'm still, every time I get on Instagram, I go and search his page. You know, sometimes I'll even go on Twitter just to, like, see, I don't know, I think I'm looking to see if he's with anybody else, to be honest. And, like, every time I do that, it shows me that I'm not over him. Because, like, my mind will try to say, you know what, we can do this, you can get over him, just let him be, don't talk to him. But then I'll be on Instagram looking at him. So it's hard to know exactly what I need to do to move on, because time clearly just hasn't done much for me, you know. Because you want to just say, like, time will heal everything, but I don't know. I'm still here after 2 years after we broke up.
I disagree very strongly with the adage that time heals all wounds. I think that's what some people say. I don't think it's necessarily true. I think doing things changes things. And typically what happens with time is that more things happen in your life that require your attention, and so you give less attention to things that happened before. Right? Yeah. Or, you know, if you say you meet someone new, that's, I guess, a new stimulus. But in this case, your behaviors have to change a little bit. Like, you're talking about the outcome. The outcome is moving forward. Right? I want to move on, I want to move forward. That's the outcome part of this. But the behaviors are still, but I'm living in the past. Yeah. I'm still checking social media. I'm still pining for the past. I still believe there's something there. So you're stuck between two worlds. You're not going to get to your outcome goal until your behavioral goals are in line with it. Essentially, and this is maybe a good metaphor, you sound like someone who had a plan A. I'm going to be a professional football player. That's what I'm going to be. And then, like, they broke their leg. And then they're like, oh, you got to find a new career. But I've only spent my whole life trying to play football. Exactly. I didn't go to school. So it's like, now what? And then you, like, look at, well, maybe I can go play football in Canada and then work my way back to the NFL. And you're just on that. But it's maybe like, well, what skills do I have that I can move forward from this, right? So the behaviors have to start switching up a little bit. So the social media side of it is a murderer. I think the first behavior is I would stop social stalking. Because as long as you're doing that, you're essentially, you're like cutting a wound, putting the Band-Aid over, and then ripping the Band-Aid off and cutting it. You're just doing that over and over again. Yeah. You're never going to go on social media and see, like, man, I really miss my ex. Oh, he misses me. Thank God he finally put that up there. I was really losing faith for a second.
Not going to see that.
Right. But I think part of you is hoping for that. Like, you hope to see the family photo on a throwback Thursday or something. Or you're hoping to see the, hey, be careful what you wish for. You may lose the one you really love. Is that about me? And you start feeling it. I think that's where your brain is. But the likelihood of that is very unlikely. And even if it happened, you don't know if it's a game or not. Yeah. Because he can post that. You'd be like, I saw your post, your TBT. Right. I remember that trip to the Bahamas. And then he was just like, he may not respond to it. And you're like, well, fuck, why would he post that if he didn't want to respond to it? So mind games. Yeah. I think the social media part's the first step. You gotta stalking is never good. Let's just be real. Okay, let's clear. I'm not stalking him. Listen, you can try to clean it up if you want to. Looking at someone's page like a few times a week, is that stalking? Is it a few times a week or is it a few times a day? It's like every other day, every day, like once or twice a day. I wish we had a panel of people here. It's like, is it too often? I was like, is it too often? The panel said it's stalking. We're gonna go with stalking on this, people. I think it's, if you have to try to, like, differentiate between looking a lot and stalking, it's probably stalking. Well, maybe that's a thing too that I need to get over, because, like, to me, I think my mind plays it off as, like, it's innocent, like, I'm not doing anything, I'm not trying to hurt anybody, I'm just, like, looking at this person's page, but I think, maybe you're right. I think you need to own it, and you got to say it to the people. I think you need to own that you've been stalking this page. and it seems like a trivial thing and maybe a little bit comical. There's some comedy in here. But you have to own that behavior because you can't move past it if you don't own it for what it is.
Right.
If you think, I'm just checking out an ex's page, who don't do that? Whatever, I'm not weird, you're weird, so's your face. like you gotta own, okay, I've been fucking up, I'm stalking this page. That's not a healthy behavior. And once you can crystallize it and say it out loud and then you hear it back to yourself, you're like, okay, now I can move forward. You can't move forward if you don't address that as an issue. So you gotta say it, and then don't say it for me. Say it for you.
So should I say it now?
You should say it now. The people are waiting patiently by the computers, phones, or tablets.
Okay, so I guess.
No. I guess own it.
Okay, so I've been stalking his page. Yeah, I need to stop, and I need help stopping. I mean, I knew somebody who, her ex actually asked her to block him because he was looking at her page, and it was throwing him off track. So I thought about that, but I don't know. I think it's my ego that won't let me ask him that question, and it's hard for me to stop myself. So it's gonna be some work, but if that's the step I need to take and that'll help, then I'm willing to do it because I can't keep going through this anymore.
This is the first step.
Yeah.
And listen, any growth that happens is a series of steps. I think that's why I mentioned the outcome versus the behavior parts of it. Like people know I'm a trainer, right? So people come to me and say, I want to lose 30 pounds, just as an example. And then I say, okay, what steps are you taking to lose weight? You're here to see me. That's a good first step. How do you eat? How active are you normally? How accountable are you to your own actions and all that? And then usually we find out when you start going through the little list of things, that's where things fall apart. Well, I do have wine pretty much every day, or I'm a little crazy on the weekends, and then they say, but this is my goal. I want to lose 30 pounds, but my behaviors aren't in line with it.
Yeah.
So what it is that time you go out with friends for a birthday, and everyone's having drinks. Oh, drinks. Instead of just drink with everyone else, that's when you'd say, you know what, I'm just having water tonight. Or if I have a drink, I'll have one and then a bunch of water, as opposed to drinking all night with everyone else, because that behavior is going to push you towards whatever goal you're trying to get to. But that's hard every time. Going out with the friends, birthday parties, weddings, home on a Friday night, Netflix. They might as well just call it Netflix and wine, because these shows, they just pop this cork. You're right there. So I tell people it's a series of steps, and sometimes you're going to misstep. It's not like Guitar Hero, where if you miss a note, oh fuck, I messed up. Like in real life, you take a couple steps forward, and you take a half step back, a step forward, 2 or 3 more steps. And, it moves in both directions. It's not like a purely linear forward moving thing. So the steps you take are what helps you get over it. I said the first step was admitting that you've been stalking. And it sounds bad. Every time I say it, I see your face. You're like, this just sounds wrong. It's bad. It's not good.
It's not what I was doing. But, I mean, I guess it is what I've been doing.
You got to own it. It's what it is. And so that's the first step. Now the second step is, okay, now that I know that I've been stalking, how do I stop? And there's probably 2 main ways to stop. One is just to delete the person on social media. That's the cold turkey, kind of easiest route. But that may be too hard of a step. So then the second step is, okay, log on, but maybe look at the profile half as much as I've been looking at it. So maybe once a week is a good number, right? As opposed to once a day, or bi-hourly, or I'm going on lunch. Let me check my Facebook real quick. All right, cool. He didn't post anything, right? Just and then at a certain time, the more infrequently you look, the less frequently you're going to want to look. Initially, it's going to be like any withdrawal type thing where you're like, I just want to know if he's posting pictures with bitches.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest reason why I look, is because I want to see if there is somebody else. And it's really, truly not my business, but I still feel like he's mine or something, or he's mine in the future, and I want to know, who he's been with, or, I don't know. It's definitely unhealthy.
That's a good admission.
Yeah.
It's the second step. See, look, you're making steps already. So
I'm trying. I really want to get over this.
Well, that's a good step.
I really want to get over him.
And so you just brought up a good point actually about you want to know if he has someone else in his life. And I think we have to ask this question. If he does, could you then just move on, or would it be more detrimental to you to know that than it is not knowing? Because on some level, you're making it seem as though your emotions towards him are conditional on him having someone else. But his emotions towards you seem to be pretty, for the most part, like he's distant. Mm-hmm. And occasionally, like, toss you a bone, but for the most part, he's distant. And he hasn't, maybe he's stalking you too, but I don't think he's overly concerned about whether you have somebody else in your life. I think he's just distant for the sake of being distant. You're almost like, well, if he's got a new chick, then I'm out. But my question is, why does it have to get to that point? The fact that he's been distant for like a year and a half, almost 2 years, why isn't that enough for you to be out?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I know, to give you some history on this topic as far as this stalking, I've been doing it like forever in our relationship. So the cheating started early on, maybe as far as I knew, maybe like in a year in or so. And what I would do was I would look on Twitter, I would look on like the gossip sites, I would look on Instagram, and I would check to see like names or people or like little hints or clues to find out who he was messing with, on the side, or or anybody trying to get at him, so I could stop that behavior, like I was trying to control everything. So I would even try to control, if I found out a girl was trying to like talk to him, I would set my intentions on trying to get her to either think bad of him or like just to defer, her from trying to talk to him. Sometimes I would even be as crazy as telling him or like making hints like, oh, so who's this girl, on Twitter? Who's this girl? Or, right. Trying to stop him from doing something in fear that he would get caught. And so I think it's also just a habit, just looking to see like who's the next person going to be. Is there somebody else? So if I did find out that he was dating somebody, I don't even know how I would act. Because every time I have found somebody, we were together. And my behavior was, how can you do this to me, blah, 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 So now that we're not together, I don't even know how I would act if I found out he was dating somebody. I know I would be hurt. I feel like I would definitely lose it emotionally.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can pretty much tell you what's going to happen. It's not going to be good. It won't be like, well, at least I know, and now I can move on. I can tell you for a fact that's not what it's going to be. It's going to be one devastation, and actually I think it would go opposite. I think you would actually stalk even harder to see how well they're doing. Like, she's not even that cute. I'm prettier than she is. She's a bitch.
I don't this and this. Do that.
I know, but that's a thing about, because stalking essentially is some level of an obsession, right? If you want to think of it like in its basic terms. When you're obsessed with something, you're obsessed with all parts of it. So if you like controversy, even when something is resolved, you're almost thinking, when is it going to fall off the handles again? So it's like you're waiting to see when the shoe's going to drop. At some point he's going to date somebody, right? It's illogical to think he's going to just be single forever, even if he doesn't post anything ever again in life. All right, wait a minute now. I know there's some chick that's like, what are you doing tonight? Oh, I'm just at the crib. You want to come over? Oh, no, I got this complicated thing with this girl in California. Like, it's going to be a thing. Yeah. At some point, somebody's going to catch him.
Yeah.
He may not post because that's dumb to post, but that's going to happen at some point. So the idea of, I'm just waiting to see what it's going to be so I can react to it, it's like you're setting yourself up to fail. Mm-hmm. Like, you're expecting the worst, and so when it happens, then you're, like, devastated by it. So I think that's an unhealthy probably behavior, and I think it's a state of anxiety to be in.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking every time you check, either you're going to see something about you or something about some other chick, and either way, it's going to make you anxious. Like, why is he posting about me, or why is he posting his new girl? Neither scenario works out where it's like, ooh, this was good. I'm glad I looked at the page today.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't end happily.
Obsessions don't, unless you're obsessive about like, I don't know, drinking water or something, but I guess even that could be weird. It's like, another bottle of water? I gotta get it hydrated. Like, obsessed, bro. Boss, holla at me. All right, Jhene, we've been vibing for 40 minutes so far. So I'm going to actually pause the podcast right now because I don't want to go too far and be here for like an hour and 15 minutes and be like the longest podcast ever. So I'm going to pause this right now. Save those thoughts. Me and you are going to resume now, but to the audience out there, they won't hear us again until next week. So, guys, this is podcast number 1 with Jhene. Next week's going to be podcast number 2. If you've enjoyed this part, please tune in next week and see how this thing ends. Y'all have a great week. Tune in to the Sunday Evening Podcast a few days from now, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday with Jhene. Deuces. All right, Jhene, we've been vibing for 40 minutes so far. So I'm going to actually pause